Brother, I'm going, wanna wow Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm stone cold.
And what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Slapping Me Wrestling Podcast. I am WeTooDeep. This is our Friday solo show. If you're new to the channel, welcome. How things run here: Tuesdays, me and Wavy D are together. Fridays are my solo episodes. If you missed Tuesday's show, Wavy D did fill us in. The next 2 weeks on Tuesday will just be me. We're gonna take 2 weeks while he's sort of training with his job and he's got scheduling issues. It'll just be me on Tuesday and Friday. What the Tuesday show for the next 2 weeks will be is just me covering SmackDown from Friday and then Monday Night Raw. That's all we'll cover. We'll sort of give my breakdown of that. And then the Friday show will be more of the news show. So essentially this will be what the Slapping Me Wrestling Podcast was back in 2023 before putting Wavy D on the show. It'll be a little bit more of just me ranting, a little bit more of breakdown of the shows, and a little less of the sort of entertainment aspect that Wavy D brings to the show. That way, when he comes back, we come back with a bang, and I'm sure y'all will miss dearly Wavy D. And yeah, so but with that, we gotta, if you watched Tuesday's episode and you watched all the way through, I sort of previewed it. We got a large show to get through this week for this episode. But before we get there, let's take care of the housekeeping. The first thing I want to ask you all, if you are listening, is to join the Junkyard Media Group Discord page. Just click the link in the description, or you can wait to the very end of the episode and the QR code will pop up during the outro, and you could scan that QR code. That'll take you to the Discord page. That's where a lot of our conversations, any vote, we do Thirsty Tuesdays on Tuesday, and any of that voting happens on the Discord page. A lot of the conversation during the shows happen there, and throughout the week. So join that Discord page. Secondly, if you guys are buying you some WWE merchandise, like I just bought me this Dirty Dom shirt. I also got on Tuesday's episode, I was trying to figure out what the fifth shirt I bought was. Oba Femi, that's who it was. I got me an Oba Femi shirt, right? If you guys are buying you some merch here, whether it's the new Roman Reigns shirt or whoever it is, the link to the my affiliate link for the Slapping Me Wrestling Podcast is in the description. I believe it is the first link in the description. So you shouldn't have to click very far. You just scroll down to where all the links start, and it is the first link in the description. Last thing is, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video out, leave us a comment to get us in the algorithm. And if you're on Spotify or Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, leave us a review of the show, how you feel about this, and that'll be much appreciated. But with that, let's dive into this pretty long episode of the Slapping Me Wrestling podcast by starting this little thing. I started to touch on this on Tuesday, but we're going to expand on this a little bit more, and that is I'm going to need y'all to put some respect on the ring general, Gunther. We need to put some respect on his name. Um, I've seen quite a few people in the IWC. I've seen, even some people in the casual audience, and there's no disrespect to them, but Mike and Nerdy D called these guys out and said, or called Gunther out and said, he's the snooze general, or whatever, essentially saying he puts me to sleep. He's boring. And that's fine. That's fine. They can have that opinion. It's one of the things, like, I don't expect everyone to agree with me. But this idea that Gunther is not like one of the greatest things in wrestling right now just completely baffles me. Gunther needs some respect because this dude is one of the best characters in wrestling right now. Right? Like, he is the anti-gimmick. I shouldn't have to explain this. I feel like Gunther's pretty self-explanatory. He is the anti-gimmick. And I understand if you don't know who Gunther is, but to sit here and be like, oh, he's boring, like, I mean, I don't know, like this idea that, oh, we hate long title runs, and I think the issue has become is since the Attitude Era, we've sort of, WWE's always been, heavy on the entertainment, but that really didn't start till like 1984. Hulk Hogan, right? Prior to that, wrestling as a whole, and then after 1984 with the WWE going on TV and becoming more commercial, the smaller promotions, the smaller territories and companies were still very in-ring based. Their product was very in-ring based. And so pro wrestling pre-1980s was, while there were characters and gimmicks there, but everything took place in the ring, and the character was just an extension of who you were in the ring, right? And so to understand the Gunther gimmick is to understand who Gunther is, and when you really look into what Gunther is, it's not boring. Gunther's entire shtick is the mat is sacred. So why would we expect Gunther to do anything outside of being the best in the ring? His promo work is not bad. It's just a different style of promo that I don't think that the American audience is necessarily used to. And while I do believe the American audience is the number one audience in the wrestling world and in TV in general, I do think Gunther's style's a little bit unique. I think the character work is fantastic. Mike, no disrespect to you, but you brought up the idea of like, look at who and if you guys want to go back and check this out, go to the Casual Wrestling page. Their Tuesday stream, Mike and D, on Tuesdays from August 6th, and watch what I like about Nerdy D is he not only does he do the live streams, but then he breaks up each segment, right? He has a little bit more time on his hands to edit, and so you can just go in and watch their 5-minute video about Gunther rather than watching the whole show if you'd rather do that, right? And so for me, like you mentioned, like, look at the guys who have held this title before Gunther, and it's Seth. I don't count Drew because he held it for 5 minutes. But if you really look at the two main title holders since the World Heavyweight Championship was created last year in this new lineage, you got Seth, you got Damien, right? And you look at that and you start to compare that to Gunther, and the point is, that's the whole point. Gunther is different than those two characters because he's the anti-gimmick. His gimmick is the anti-gimmick. He's the mat is sacred. I'm the best in the ring. I may not have the flashy character and gimmick and and chants and my attire's plain and boring. But once you step in the ring and that bell rings, you're in the ring with the greatest damn wrestler in the ring, right? Seth Rollins and Damian Priest might be superstars, and they may be top of the level with all the extracurriculars. But once you get in that ring and that bell rings, you're in the ring with the ring general, right? And that's what Gunther's gimmick is. And that's not boring. That's actually very right. And it almost comes off as sort of Hunter Hearst Helmsley-ish, right? The sort of Connecticut, white collar, like, he grew up like super privileged in that he was sort of rich and he looked down on the poor folk, right? That's what this gimmick can become. And I like what this is. I like what this is. Gunther to me represents going back to the sort of origin of pro wrestling, where you had a gimmick, and there was character work, but a lot of it is based on the inside of the ring, because at the end of the day, it's still wrestling. And this is just what sets Gunther apart is that he is so good in the ring. No disrespect to Damian. Damian's good, but Damian's not better than Gunther. Right? Seth is good, but Seth is a character, and he's over the top, and he I think a lot of what people like about Seth Rollins is the chant and the fan interaction, and Gunther saying, I don't need any of that. And that's fine. That's why Gunther could never really necessarily be a face, because his character doesn't require fan interaction. And in fact, it makes it difficult to have fan interaction, because the idea is I'm better than you. Right. And Mike, you sort of said, oh, he's the quintessential AEW superstar. And while I may not disagree, I think he's the quintessential pro wrestler, no matter what company. Like Gunther represents to me what pro wrestling should be. And yes, you should have your characters, but at the end of the day, but then we also got to take a look at what is the championship that he has, right? What type of title that it's the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, how was this thing built to us last May when Triple H debuted this heading into it was supposed to be King and Queen of the Ring, but then they changed it last second. I don't remember what that event was. What was it? It doesn't matter necessarily, but what was that? The first Saudi show. How did Triple H book this title? This title was the Workhorse Championship. It was it was for the person who put in the most work, and it was going to be defended, and all of that was set to sort of push Gunther or push Seth Rollins to be the first champion. But this is the Workhorse Champion. There's no one better in the ring than Gunther, and he represents a title that's supposed to be about wrestling, right? And I also think Raw is the more wrestling-based show, which is part of the reason, and we're going to come back to this topic, why the Wyatt Six feels so out of fucking place. Because Raw is the wrestling show, whereas SmackDown comes off, you got the bloodline, and the SmackDown sort of comes off as this is going to be the show where we cater towards the entertainment side of the business, right? And so, the Wyatt Six probably fit better on SmackDown, if we're being honest with you, right? But Raw's the wrestling show, this is where we're going to transition into the next topic, which is Gunther comes into Raw, and he's coming to do he starts the show, and he gives this promo, and he's interrupted by Randy Orton. And I mentioned this on Tuesday, and that the whole, we're going to, my shoulder wasn't on the rope thing, bro, that's 3 months ago. I'm not going to sit here and complain about it again, but it is wildly disappointing. And let me tell you why it's disappointing. The match is going to be a banger, right? I'm not upset with the match. I'm upset though because for the last year I've sort of logically booked WWE. Like we can go back and take a look at a lot of these stories that I've sort of booked over time and looked at how I've logically booked these things, and I think the storyline becomes better if you did it the way that I booked it. But because Triple H said on Pat McAfee that we got to stop over looking at the little details. He doesn't care about the little details. He doesn't care about the logic. And that's another sort of thing to me that like takes a mark out of Triple H's, booking decisions a lot of times, like because I am such a logical person, and I feel if you insert a logic into your booking, you make better stories. So long story short, let's sort of look at they announced this like November last year, but sometime in 2023 I came in here and they announced this show that it was going to be in Berlin, and from that day till even right now I'm going to stand on business and say that the main event should have been Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov. That feud was built for that show. That show should have been built for that feud. And I told y'all last year that whatever WWE does, their business should be building to that show, should be getting Ilya Dragunov in a position on the main roster so that when August 31st comes around, Ilya Dragunov faces Gunther, and I thought it was going to be for the World Championship. Post, coming into 2024, I figure Gunther would be world champion at some point. And post King and Queen of the Ring, let's go back and we're going to use this example, right? We're going to use this example of how I booked up to Bash at Berlin after King and Queen of the Ring happened, right? And we knew what Gunther was fighting, what his prize was for winning. And I said, Gunther's going to win at SummerSlam. He's going to be world champion. The best way to run this story is what? Let's build Braun Breaker winning Money in the Bank. How do you build Ilya up into the story? Well, it's real easy. You still can do this theoretically, but you could have done this starting on Monday, where you run a little 2-week tournament where it's and you don't even need to run like a 2-week tournament, right? It could just be, hey, we're going to run 3 qualifying matches. The winner of these matches this week become in a triple threat to become the number 1 contender, and that's the week after that. That then builds a week for them to meet face to face, sign the contract, and then that's your go home show. You don't really necessarily need to build a story because at the end of Bash at Berlin, what was my end result? Gunther's not the champion anymore, but neither is the winner of the qualifiers, which to me would have been Ilya, because I had Braun Breaker as my Money in the Bank. And what's the story? Remember the story I booked? Using a little bit of logic, because at the time I booked this, his major gripe was, hey, Pierce, you're not putting me on the show. And if you're not going to give me opportunities, I'm going to take opportunities. Essentially what they're doing with Bronson Reed right now, right? If you're not going to give me the opportunities, I'm going to take the opportunities. And so Braun Breaker, to me, should have won Money in the Bank. He then should have, in these qualifiers, then should have attack after Dragunov won the triple threat to become the number 1 contender. He then comes out and attacks Dragunov, and because he's pissed off that he wasn't a part of the qualifying thing, right? And again, my reasoning behind why he should have been in there was just because he's Money in the Bank, that doesn't mean he shouldn't continue to try to fight to win, to become number 1 contender without the briefcase, because the briefcase is just assurance that you're going to get a title match. But that doesn't mean like a smart person would still try to be like, hey, I should be number 1 contender even without this, right? Now, part of me believes that they need to drop this cash in whenever you want to gimmick, and it should be you win Money in the Bank, and they do it like I think how TNA does it, where you win the briefcase or and you it's the next PLE that you get the title match at. That's how I believe they should run it if they're going to run this gimmick. But so with that, like the way I originally booked this was Braun attacks Dragunov, Pierce pulls him off, tells him, bro, get the hell out of the ring. What the hell are you doing? And Braun's just sick and tired of dealing with this because he's been dealing with that with Pierce for months now. So he looks like he's getting ready to leave, and he then runs off the ropes and spears Adam Pierce. Well, this thing gets Braun Breaker suspended from Bash at Berlin. He's suspended. If he shows up at Berlin, there's going to be consequences, right? Well, then you get this banger of a main event between Dragunov and Gunther, right? And Gunther retains, but it's like a slobber knocker, like match of the year type match. And Gunther is like sort of weak, but he's standing up. And by weak, I mean he's spent, like he's out of energy, right? He's on zero, and he's holding the title, and he's looking strong. And then this man in a black hoodie and some jeans jumps over the barricade. He slides in the ring. He attacks Gunther with the briefcase from behind, takes the hoodie off. It's Braun Breaker. There's a ref already in the ring. He hands him the briefcase. The contract's in the briefcase. He cashes in. The bell rings. Gunther stands up. Spear, 1, 2, 3. Braun Breaker leaves Germany as champion. And the goal should be to have put Braun Breaker over, because going into Netflix, the champion should be Braun Breaker. Now, I believe on the current trajectory, Braun Breaker is going to be champion at Mania. I think him versus Gunther will be the match at Mania. And I think Braun Breaker wins the championship from Gunther, because I think Breaker wins the Rumble. Right, but you see the way that I logically use what's happening on the show to help benefit the story. Would that not have been a better use of Money in the Bank than having Drew cash in the same night just to get it spoiled? Like, that story didn't need Money in the Bank. It didn't need Seth Rollins. It didn't need a bracelet, right? It was already a blood feud in and of itself, right? But you go back to last Friday where I said, is this thing overbooked? Yeah, they overbooked it with the different things that they put into it, right? And so I'm looking at what I'm getting, and I'm not upset with Gunther versus Randy. Not upset at all. But Gunther's first title defense in his country is going to be Randy Orton in his home area. Now, I get it, he's Austrian, not German. But when have we ever made that distinguish, But Austria, Germany, essentially the same place, right? And so I don't like this, just because we could have had something better, right? Like, Randy versus Gunther is like, it's good, it's palatable, you can digest it, it's good, but there's a gourmet buffet on the other side that you just sort of, like you had door 1 and door 2, and door 1 you open it up and it's good. You got a trip to Florida, you're going to the beaches, you're going to Disney World, right? But then you open door 2 and you realize, oh, you could have had, a trip to Italy with where you explore the Italian coast and the Mediterranean and all the beaches there, which are 1,000 times better than the beaches here. I'm just gonna be honest with you, right? And so, like, you have something good, but then you open door 2 and you look at what you're missing out on, and you're missing out on making superstars. And that, I feel, going into the new year, we should have Tiffany Stratton and Braun Breaker as your 2 Money in the Bank winners who get their big moments, who come into Mania next year as champion, right? Coming into Mania, while we're going to be headlined by Roman and Rock, because I know there's rumors that came out on Wednesday that it's going to be Cody versus Rock and Roman versus Solo. That's not at all what they're doing. They're not running that. I think we get Roman or Cody versus Rock maybe the year after, or maybe SummerSlam next year. But Mania, without a doubt, has to be Rock versus Roman. That's the only way you end the Bloodline Civil War and make it make sense. I do believe you get Rock versus Roman at Mania. And so that's going to be your headliner, right? And Cody's going to get a somewhat important match at the pay-per-view at Mania. I'd like to see Cody versus Cena or Cody versus Orton at Mania. And then you have Braun Breaker come in and have Braun Breaker versus Gunther be that banger of a match, right? Where you make Braun Breaker champion, right? You have Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair coming in the Mania, like that would be a banger of a match there. And so you got some big matches there. Your IC title, you could put, Braun has it now, but Braun's dropping it. I'm assuming that's going to be Ilya who takes it from him. And so Ilya can be champion, and you can have Ilya versus somebody, right? And even like in my booking, right? Braun versus it would be, well, in my booking, if he went the way that I would have it, it would be Tiffy versus Charlotte, Rock versus Roman, I would have Cody versus Cena here. And then sort of Cena passing on to Cody, the sort of like extreme American babyface type thing, right? I'd have so Cody, Cena, Rock, Roman. I'd have Tiffany versus Charlotte. I have Braun coming in as champion into this Mania, and I'd have him against someone. If you want to have a serious match, I'd have him against someone like Ilya. I think that you could build a storyline there, but I would hold that off, and I'd have Braun versus Brock. That's how I would do it. And I'd have Braun and Brock feud off. We're looking at like the U.S. champion. I would have Carmelo Hayes and as U.S. champion fighting someone like a Montez Ford or an Andrade, something like that. The IC title. I'd have an IC title 6-way ladder match, and at Mania, maybe have like a Jay win or an Ilya win that. Right, and then I would have Punk versus Seth. And actually, I would have Ilya versus Sheamus for the IC title, and I'd have Sheamus win the Grand Slam champion, become Grand. Right, you see what I'm saying? It changes the landscape of everything if you just do it the way that I predicted it. Now you actually, if you did it the way that I booked it, like I did the work for you. Right. And I feel like it's logical and makes sense, and it's better than what we got. And so I look at what we're getting, and I'm not upset with it, but I look over at what I booked, and I look over and like, yo, you letting like this gourmet meal come up, get passed by, and it just it doesn't hit the same. It's a little disappointing, right? The match is going to be fine, but it's a little disappointing that Gunther goes home and he has to fight, Randy Orton. Right. Now, speaking of other areas in which I was right again. I need y'all to go back to, it was like March, no, excuse me, was it May or June? Where it was June 17th, 2024 at approximately 11:34 p.m. I made the tweet that basically exploded my TikTok when I shared it. And that tweet was essentially, that was the Wyatt Six's debut. in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I said the following: at some point, you're gonna have to stop the spooky shit and get into the ring. Now, there was a reason that I said this. And the reason why I said this is because I knew at that point, almost 2 months ago, exactly what people found out on Monday. Now, there's still like the Wyatt 6 blowhards that will, no matter what happens with this gimmick, it could be the worst thing ever, they're going to cheer for it because they're Wyatt fans. And you get that with every fan base, right? You got it with everybody, right? And so those people, they're never going to be disappointed. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. And I'm not talking to those people because I'm not here to convince you if you're not willing to be convinced, right? But we got some people, right? June 17th, I said, nah, man. Like, I went to the casual wrestling Discord and said, I'm not sold yet. This thing feels like it's going to be a passion project. And I met with, now you got to give it time. You got to be patient. Like, it was really the only time that I was getting the same argument from both the casual CWC and the IWC at the same time. Like, you got to give it some time. You got to be patient. You can't judge us on the debut. And I was saying, I've been saying from this, I've been standing on this business. Get it in the ring. Get it in the ring. And then we'll see where we come to, right? And what exactly happened when you got in the ring? Was it a bad match? No. But here's the thing. If you followed Bo Dallas from his time in NXT with Bo Leave or his time on the B team or any of the things he did when he was in WWE the first time, you knew I've said this already. He's better. Taylor Rotunda's better than Wyndham. Bo Dallas is better than Bray. Everyone's already known that. If you follow Dexter Lumis, you knew that he was good in the ring. If you follow Joe Gacy, even from his time in NXT, bro, Joe Gacy was one of my favorites in NXT. One of the dudes that if you go back last year and early this year, that I would complain all the time that Shawn Michaels wasn't giving championships to the Schism or to Joe Gacy, because Joe Gacy was one of my favorites. I like Joe Gacy. I like Dexter Lumis. I like Bo Dallas. I like Eric Rowan. Right? This is no diss to them. But they did exactly what we knew they could do, and they put on a good match. But do y'all actually believe that the guys who showed up June 17th and destroyed Gorilla and splattered blood and brains all over the walls, you believe that those same people were the ones in the ring last night? Or Monday night, excuse me? Nah. You can't tell me that that bell rung and and they started to take a beating from Gable and the Creeds. You're gonna sit here and tell me that you still believe that the Wyatts could pull off the massacre, right? They're two separate groups at that point to me. And we have no idea why the massacre happened. Did the massacre happen? There was a theory at the time that maybe that was like a dream. Did that happen? Well, obviously it happened because Gable came out with the Band-Aids, and before he miraculously healed himself in 2 weeks. Right? So you see what you see that like I'm not that dumb, dude. I could have told you where this was headed the second they got it in the ring. That's the reason why I told them I told you on their debut that they had to get it in the ring. Why? Because if they got it in the ring, people would see what I saw. That this gimmick relies on the spooky and the supernatural. And if you take that away, this just becomes a passion project for Bray Wyatt. And that's not a bad thing. It's a tragedy what happened to Bray. Right? He's gone way too soon. But I was right. Was I not? Because we got these same people who were telling me, nah, man, you got to give it time. Right? I don't, when this thing's a banger, when they get in the ring, I don't want to see you cheering them. Those same people are the ones now saying, I don't know, this didn't hit for me. What can I say? I've been here. Welcome on board. The train's now going to leave the station. I've been here. I've been waiting for y'all to come and see what I've seen in this gimmick since day one. We've had so many people say, "No, we can't have it be supernatural. We gotta get it in. It can't be supernatural. Let them. No. It requires the supernatural. It requires it for it to work, and for it to be supernatural, it's got to stay out of the ring. The best way that they could have put this gimmick is just have random things happen, where people get taken, people show up missing, or dead, or knocked out in the parking lot. This should be like a supernatural thriller, and now we just sort of got like C tier Sharknado type shit, right? This is not believable anymore. It's not believable anymore. And to me, it's never been believable. And so I expect week after week after week for the bandwagon to leave the station with more people each week talking about how the Wyatt 6 is just a waste of time. And that's what it is. It's just a waste of time. When you got so much going on Raw, and I mentioned it earlier, when you got so much, and I've been saying this since June 17th, when you got so much going on Raw right now, you got so much going on Raw right now that's based in sort of a reality, emotion. Like CM Punk's reaction to the bracelet makes a hell of a lot of sense. That's based out of reality and emotion, right? The Bronson Reed taking his shot and knocking out Seth Rollins, taking him out, that's based out of emotion. Xavier Woods feeling betrayed by Kofi because Odyssey Jones is now part of the group, and where that's going, that's based out of human emotion of betrayal. Right? There's a reality to those storylines. And then you throw in the Wyatt 6 and none of it makes any sense. And it doesn't fit with the continuity of the rest of the program that's based on in-ring and storyline, and none of this makes any sense. This just feels like a Bray Wyatt passion project, like I said it was going to be. And this isn't me saying like I'm a know-it-all. This is just me saying sometimes we like again, if they would have made like a Netflix special TV show with this, I'm all down for it. I'm watching it with you and I'm enjoying it. But when you mix it in with Monday Night Raw and you see what's going on Monday Night Raw, this thing, especially when it's the main event, right? And you could like a lot of the casual fans, what I saw, like Nerdy D, and I get them mixed up all the time. Sorry. What I saw Nerdy D and Mike trying, especially Nerdy D, trying to do is like he critiqued the outfits or the physique. You're critiquing the wrong thing, and he also critiqued what I've been critiquing in the last few minutes. But the outfits, Joe Gacy's physique, all of that's fine. That's not the problem with the gimmick. The problem with the gimmick is the gimmick itself. It requires what it doesn't have, and that's the supernatural. Because when it's supernatural, now you really have to talk to yourself, like, is this really needed? Like when you take, I've taught the last few weeks about things that, Raw and Nerdy D has this as well. Like Raw feels like a lot of times that it's a 3-hour show that you could cut to 2.5 or 2 hours, and it would be better than the 3-hour show. Right. And some of these things that you can take out, to me, the stud line, which that's the stud line for those who aren't in the casual community. That's what we've sort of coined. Sonya, Shayna, and Zoe, this team, the stud line. We can cut that out. It takes up time. You can cut out the Wyatt 6. That takes too much time. And like I said on you take away the last hour of Raw, you have one of the greatest Raws I've ever seen with the first 2 hours. But you take away the stud line and the Wyatt 6, adding those two last segments into the show completely ruins it to me. Let's move on. Told you we got a long show. Next thing I want to talk about is the title of this is The Tale of Two Companies. And I titled it that because WWE just got done with its biggest event of the summer, its second biggest event of the year in SummerSlam. And my note that I have written down about SummerSlam as a final talk is this might have been, from start to finish, first bell to last bell, this may have been one of the greatest PLE/pay-per-views that I've ever seen. From start to finish of the whole show, this may have been one of the best. I don't know if I'll put it as the best, but it's one of the best PLEs or pay-per-views that I've ever seen. From a storytelling aspect, from an in-ring aspect, there was a lot that went on here that I really enjoyed. Right? I think I gave it like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Outside of Braun Breaker's match taking longer than it should have been, and that match literally should have been like 6 seconds, 3 to do the spear, and then 3 for the pin. Outside of that, and Tiffany not cashing in, I think the rest of the show was fantastic to me in terms of booking. And so if I'm leaving the show and I only have 2 critiques, because y'all know I'm very, very harsh on this product that I watch and I love so much. Like, I'm harsh on it. I grade it hard on purpose, right? If I'm leaving the show with 2 critiques and that's it for a 4-hour show, you did a pretty damn good job. And so this may have been one of the greatest PLEs that I've ever seen in my life. At least in the last, since I've been watching wrestling here recently in the last 10 years, right? I don't know anything that's better than what we saw here, right? And so we leave with that, and we look over at AEW, and I'm looking again going into their biggest event of the summer, maybe even their biggest event of the year, and All In. They're about to go over to London, and their locker room, again, just like it was at this time last year, is a clusterfuck of drama. Last year was the CM Punk shit. This year it's hitting the women's division, and you got Mercedes Moné out here getting divorced and going on a divorce tour, which any man knows that she's been cheating. She's been sleeping around for the last few months at that point, if a divorce tour is happening, where she's going on like podcasts and talking about it. She's that thing, she's been sleeping around. But you also have Britt Baker apparently no longer with Adam Cole. Now there's rumors she's cheating on Cole with Christian, of all people. You got the story of Britt in the locker room, complaining about MJF's girlfriend, Alicia Mattel, and apparently overheard it and went back to MJF, and MJF then comes out and now you got all this drama. You got all this drama again, overshadowing what should be a good card for All In. And you're overshadowed again because Tony Khan, again, for another year in a row, has no control of his locker room and has no idea how to run a locker room. He has no idea how to run this. He has no idea how to be a boss. Last year I was like, you got to become Big Boss Tony. Where's Big Balls Tony right now? He's not here. right? As I sit and record this, just to be frank and transparent, I'm recording this on Wednesday. Typically I get up and record on Friday mornings. But I decided to record Wednesday night so I could sleep in on Friday since I'm off work. Right. And so as I'm sitting here recording this at the moment, Big Boss Tony is about an hour north of me. I should probably go up there. As I'm recording this, Dynamite just got done. So the fans got about 2 more hours of tapings to do as they do ROH and a bunch of dark matches. And I don't know how long it's going to be, but the last AEW event I was at it, that thing didn't get over to about midnight because of all the extra shit they do after Dynamite's over. But I should go up there and say this to Tony's face, like, why don't you control your locker room, dude? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Right, so there's a tale of two companies here. You got one with Triple H where and he's controlling the booking and it's not all bad and there's a lot of great things going on right now and there appears to be zero drama in the locker room. I'm sure there's always drama in a place of business. It doesn't matter if it's WWE or wherever you guys work locally. There's always going to be drama because we're human, right? But it seems like Triple H has great control of the locker room. And then you look over at AEW and you look over there and you're like, bro, the asylum is being run by the inmates. Tony has zero control, and you have so much ego over there. Not all ego. All ego's down at NXT. We're going to talk about him in a minute. But you got so much ego in AEW right now between Mercedes Moné, who apparently the women's locker room feel a little disrespected by because she walks around like she's hotter than sliced bread and the hottest thing since she's saying she's hot shit and all that, right? And then you got Britt back there, and I like Britt Baker. I think she'd fit in WWE. I really do. I don't think she'll come here because I think she likes the schedule of AEW so that she can still be the dentist, right? She's an egomaniac just as much, though. She used to be a cancer backstage with a whole bunch of stuff going on back there. But she used to be the locker room bully, apparently, before Mercedes got there, right? And then you got MJF acting like he's the hottest thing on the planet. And he's now like the golden child, right? And you got everything with the elite and who's friends of the elite and all that. And Tony has zero control of this. Meanwhile, what might be your best tag team in the Lucha Bros, yeah, they're headed to the Fed, man. And Arn Anderson is who you could have used as a good coach to help coach these guys. Yeah, well, he just showed up on WWE again. And Daniel Garcia, who might be like a future in your company. Yeah, we don't know what's going on with him. And Ricky Starks, we don't know what's going on with him. Like the future of your company. And you got Sammy Guevara stuck on ROH because the dude's tired of you putting him in the same type gimmick with Jericho. Because you don't know, Tony Khan doesn't know how to book. And he doesn't know how to manage a locker room, and he doesn't know how to manage a place where there's a lot of ego involved, and he doesn't know how to bring everyone together to accomplish the same mission. He's a bad leader. So there's a tale of two companies as they enter and exit their number one show of the summer, right? Because in less than 20 days, it'll be 2 weeks. It'll be 14 days from Saturday, right? So in 2 weeks, it's all in. Right? In 2 weeks, it's all in. And a week after, you got Bash at Berlin. right? And you just got done with SummerSlam. And there's an obvious difference between the two companies. Not just in product, not just in viewership, but in locker room morale. One of them's got control, the other doesn't. Right? And that's what I'll end that on. Like, man, I laugh when I look at AEW some of these times. Like, it's laughable at times to see what goes on in that company, what becomes acceptable, right? But with that, let's transition to NXT, my favorite thing. Great American Bash just finished up on Tuesday. So week 1, I didn't talk about. I wanted to wait to do the full thing. We essentially had 12 matches, 6 each week, which I like that format. So week 1, let's just sort of briefly walk through this. Metaphor, the Lash Legend Jakara Jackson versus the Unholy Trinity for the Women's World Championship, which obviously, if you watched SmackDown last Friday, the Unholy Trinity won because they ended up facing Bianca and Jade. But the Unholy Trinity won this match. Decent. I would have rather preferred Metaphor winning it and then showing up on SmackDown to defend against Jade and Bianca. That would have been cool. Yeah, Tony D versus Tavian Heights for the cup. Tavian Heights is a star. Tony D ends up winning this, though. Cedric Alexander versus Brooke Jensen. A good little filler match to get Cedric introduced to the crowd of NXT and I'm back on TV. Jada Parker versus Kendall Gray, where Jada won. Kendall Gray is going to be a good talent. She just got here like 6 months ago, though. So, she's going to take some losses here as we sort of weed out this division. Jada appears to be headed towards a world title match against Roxanne at some point down the line. We end up getting Fallon, JC, and Jasmine versus Lola, Soul, and Carmen, in which Fallon, JC, Jasmine win. Very good little 6-man. So you have a bunch of you start with 2 title matches. You have 3 fillers in between, then you end with your main event being a banger of a title match between Roxanne and Thea. And like I said, Thea Hale is ready, man. She's ready. Roxanne's ready. The main roster, I mean, this thing is deep. This roster in NXT for the women is deep. And not just deep in terms of talent, but like deep in terms of like I say this every time I talk about this, but like I don't know where Shawn Michaels will find these women, but Shawn, I need directions because you be finding some fine ass women. Stevie Turner, when she debuted in NXT like a year ago, and she was like the gamer girl, and I like gamer girls. There's nothing wrong with gamer girls, but I was like, she pretty mid. But she be showing up like she fine. I don't know where he be finding these women at, dude. I don't. But I need directions. This locker room is deep in NXT. Just deep of talent and people who potentially superstar level, right? Week 1 was really good. And we missed the Joe Hendry concert. I didn't put that on there, but the Joe Hendry concert was there, which then led to a match for this week later on with Hendry versus Joe Coffey. That Joe Hendry concert was great. But if we look at week 2, what we had on this Tuesday, Pete Dunne versus Trick Williams. Pete Dunne gets a win, surprising, but really good. It leads to a brawl later in the night backstage. Everyone's favorite corner, known as where the garage door is. Everyone gets beat up there. If you see that garage door on NXT, know that someone's about to get beat up. If they're filming in the parking lot, someone's hurt or someone's about to get beat up. Or if Tony D's around, someone's dead in the trunk. Right, very good match. Kalani Jordan versus Tatum Paxley for the women's North American Championship. Banger. Kalani's good. Tatum Paxley in in 6 months went from like nobody losing squash matches to fighting for the TNA Women's Knockouts Championship, fighting for the NXT Women's Championship, fighting for the NXT North American Championship for the women. Right? She's like one of my favorites on NXT now, and she used to be like a nobody who was losing. And this is why I say booking matters. Chef Michaels is cooking with her. This gimmick is hitting. Right? Move over, mommy. My golf mommy now is Tatum. We don't need Rhea. I still like Rhea, but golf mommy now is Tatum. Right? We team Dom in this. We team Dom in this thing, man. Kalani, fantastic. Tatum, fantastic. What a match this was. Right? We move on to Ethan Page versus Ora Mensah. Ethan, of course, was going to win. We knew that. But what a banger of a match this was. Joe Hendry versus Joe Coffey. Joe Hendry wins. He then does a little promo where he says, I love being here, but I feel like I'm going to be here a little bit longer. I'm going to be here next week. Tune in. Right, we move into another match, Ren Sinclair versus Kendall Gray. Kendall Gray's been throwing around Miles Bourne. Little good promo backstage with the No Quarter Catch crew where Ren Sinclair shows up and like, where's Tavion? And they tell me that he's in Japan, and she's like, she's trying to join the No Quarter Catch crew. And first off, Ren Sinclair fine as a hell too, but she coming out here, trying to join the No Quarter Catch crew, and the Don walks up and is like, "Hey, I'm gonna do something. If she can beat Kendall, not only does she join No Quarter Catch crew, but if she wins, I'll give you a Heritage Cup match, right? Up the stakes a little bit, right? And in this, Ren doesn't hear what's his name? Charlie Dempsey says. So she's like, wait, hold up. And Miles Bourne with this comedic timing that's fantastic. Everyone knows, like, you should know he's deaf, right? So he comes around and he says, wait, you can't hear him either? Bro, I popped loud as hell. I laughed my ass off at that. And I know there's someone on the internet in some corner somewhere that don't enjoy nothing, talking about how that's offensive to deaf people. Bitch, first off, shut the fuck up. Actually, he can't hear you, but shut the fuck up, dude. Like, Miles Bourne, if he can continue that dude, like, I called it when he signed, I didn't know he was deaf at the moment when he signed, but I called him Baby Orton. The dude looked just like Randy Orton when he was younger. I'm all for him, right? As long as it's safe for him to do what he's doing, I'm all for it. Kendall Gray's, again, another one of these people who's just going to take her losses because she's new, but she looked good. I forgot what her friend's name was. She looked good as well. They're both cheerleaders. They're both athletic. They're going to hopefully make it, right? And then you get another banger with, they're calling it the Supersonic Duo on, I think is what SmackDown Hotel calls them. That's not the name I'm giving them. I'm calling them Fraxium. Fraser and Axiom. I'm calling them Fraxium versus MSK. Another banger main event to close out Bash at Berlin. And Fraxium picks up the win. There's still tension there because Axiom was late, right? And eventually they're going to lose the titles and split up, and that's fine. That's all good, fine and dandy, right? But the biggest when you end this show with Wes Lee after taking the pin, going like psycho on the Rascals, super kicking Trey Miguel, nut shot to Zach Wentz. Bruh. I did not expect this to happen. Right? I did not expect this to happen, right? The response of the people they showed in the crowd, that was me watching this. I did not expect this to happen. I thought we were going to get MSK and the Rascals and this TNA thing for the long haul, like for several months. Maybe a tag team run out of it that they could cross brand promote. But oh man, I'm excited to see this new Wesley, man. As excited as shocked as I was that this happened, like I don't know. This is like a weird thing that's happened in the 10 years that I've watched wrestling. Like 2014, 2015, me only cheer for the baby faces, right? It was Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, babyface Roman Reigns, right? I only cheered for the baby faces. But at some point in the last like 4 years, I don't know what it's been, but like I'm in love with the heels now. Dom, Liv, Roman as a heel, Solo. Right? When people turn heel, I get excited. This a heel Wesley. I'm excited for this, man. I'm excited for this. This is exciting to me. I just, yeah, Bash at the Beach accomplished exactly what it had to do, right? And I'm a little bit upset we didn't get Oba in a match, but he was on the show on Tuesday, in a promo and in several segments with the family. So I wonder if he's going to start going after him. We'll see what happens there. But Oba's my dude on NXT, dog, and I just we got 2 weeks of promos about who Javon Evans is, and that's awesome to get to know him a little bit more. I actually weird story. I don't know why this decided to pop up on my algorithm on Facebook, but his mama's page showed up. And she did like a little dedication post to her son about how, I couldn't afford to, when he was growing up, I couldn't afford to get food and all this, but now he can afford everything he want. And you love to see that type of stuff, right? So NXT killing it, man. I just, every time I watch NXT, right, I watch Raw and I love it. Then I watch NXT and I'm like, bro, every time Raw looks like it's about to become the best show to me, NXT just kills this thing, man. And I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at tickets at Halloween Havoc and Hershey. I'm looking. I might be there in the October in Hershey. I might be there. If these tickets are cheap, we might be there. But let's go to react to that, and then we'll end it with my top 5 that I promised y'all last week. So react to that, and we're going to talk about this thing on Miz went on the Rich Eisen show last week, doing promo work for SummerSlam. And I'm going to say, I'm going to quote. I've never seen so many superstars that we consider what we would call over, which means when they come out into the crowd goes ecstatic. It's whether they're booing them or cheering them, they're highly engaged. And there are so many superstars right now that it's hard to get on a SummerSlam card. Like right now, getting on a PLE is very, very difficult. End quote. Guys, that's how this should be. Enough of this 2 night shit. Like, I know SummerSlam next year is going 2 nights. I know Mania is 2 nights, and I understand the money that's involved there. But Miz is right. This should be a 7-match card for Manias and SummerSlam. Like, you should have a template, right? I would stop at the Big 4 because I don't consider Survivor Series like on the same level as a Rumble or a Mania or as a SummerSlam. I just don't. But your sort of holy trinity of your shows, Mania, Rumble, SummerSlam, those should be 7-card matches. The rest of your show should be 5-match cards. Right? So your even if you did the Big 4 with Survivor Series, right? The Big 4 7-match cards, the rest of the year, the rest of the PLEs 5-match cards. That should be your template. One night, you have to earn your spot. And not everyone's going to make it. And it's a competition. Who wants this more? Right? That's how this business should be. This shouldn't be we're going to put what Tony Khan does, where he does 18 match cards and he puts everyone in the company on the damn poster and in the damn pay-per-view. Right? You should have to earn your spot on these PLEs. You should have to earn, and whether it's through merchandise or in-ring and crowd reaction. This is how it should be. Getting on SummerSlam should be hard. Getting on Mania should be even harder. Should be the best of the best on the Mania card. I like what Miz said here. That means that this business it's peaking, man. It's peaking. It's doing what it needs to do. Right? All right, let's move on. I promised y'all last week I did my top 5 men and women, or I did my top 10. Yeah, I did my top 10, and I mixed men and women together, right? And I said, well, I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna do a top 5 men's, women's, and tag teams. So let's start with the tag teams. So these are in no order, right? Just like I don't think last week I had in any order particular. But these are in no particular order these are just who I would consider the top 5 in each of these categories. So for tag teams, again, no particular order. I got Fraxium, Fraser, and Axiom, of course, have to be on here. Chase U has to be on here. Now, there's going to be some drama in Chase U now that Ridge is sort of part of it, and he's tagging with Andre Chase now. And so Duke looks like he's about to go on his own. I'd be happy for that. Duke sort of played his stay here in Chase U. I have Gallus. Gallus boys are always going to be in this list because they're fantastic. Sort of for the same reasons I like Gunther, right? They're sort of you get someone like Chase U, right? And Axiom, right? What's Axiom and Fraser's thing, right? They're super fast, super flippy, right? Chase U's super gimmicky, like cartoony. What's Gallus? They're completely different than the rest of this list. Same thing with the next team, which is no quarter catch crew, right? It's just get in the ring and fight, right? And that's unique and that's special, and that's why I like both of them. And then the last one would be Metaphor. I love everything about Metaphor, and at first I hated it, but it's grown on me. I've enjoyed the hell out of it. So we'll move to the women now. No, again, this was hard. This was really hard to get to what I would consider my top 5 women. Again, in no particular order, but this was really hard. I have Roxanne Perez on there. I think she's the standard bearer of the women's division right now. I got Kalani Jordan. I got Jada Parker. I got Thea Hale. And I got Sol Ruka. Like, that's hard to limit to just those 5. Right? There's so many women on this roster that the 4th and 5th spot, Sol Ruka and Thea Hale, when I was writing these names, and I was like, there's so many people I could consider here. Right? I got to look at like a JC Jane, a Gigi Dolan, Cora, though I haven't seen 2 of those in a while on TV. Right? You got like Jasmine Nix, who's good. Ariana Grace, that's good. Tatum Paxley not being on this list, this doesn't fit with me because Tatum's so good. But like, I can't put her on it. Like, I don't know who I would replace out of the 5 that I put on there to put Tatum on this list. Right? I just, that's a good thing, man. That's a good thing. And then we get to the men's division, just as hard. Now, just like I did last week. He's a main player on NXT now. Like, next week we'll make 3 weeks in a row that he's going to be on the show. Joe Hendry's got to be on this list. Joe Hendry's got to be on this list. He's the most over superstar in the world, I believe. Just I'll be honest with it. Maybe until Roman showed up. But Joe Hendry, man, he's like breaking records and charts and and all of these things with his song and his social media presence. So Joe Hendry, he's got to be a top 5. Trick Williams has got to be on this list. I think Ethan Page has to be on this list. Obafemi's got to be on this list. This 5th spot was really hard because I think the 4 that I've named were super easy. Like these are like the standard bearers of the company for me right now. You got Ethan Page, who I think is really good. Joe Hendry is really good. Trick Williams is the future. Obafemi is the future. And then I have to be like, who would I put at this 5th spot? And there's so many names. I wanted Lexis King potentially. You know, maybe like it's Josh Briggs on this list, right? We go back to the women for a minute. Like Fallon Henley is one of my favorite women. Like over the last 2 years, like she was my dad. She was boo, and she's not on the list. That's hard for me to do, man. And it's hard for this 5th spot for me. Like who do I put here? Do I put Ora Mensa, who's really stepped up his game? Do I put Lexis King, Eddie Thorpe? Right. I want to go back to the tag teams. Like something I didn't mention with Great American Bash, the host being Hank and Tank, bro. Everything they did over the last 2 weeks, fantastic. Keep them up in this group and this type of segment, dog. This works for them, right? But you know, if they could get some in-ring ability now and in-ring work, right? You know, you got tag teams like OTM and Tyson and DuPont, and I can't think of his tag team partner's name off the top of my head right now. There's just so much here. But my 5th spot for the men is Wesley. I committed to Wesley, especially now with this character change. I'm committed to Wesley being in this spot. So that's my top 5 in each segment. I want to thank all of y'all for listening. Remember, Wavy D won't be here the next 2 Tuesdays. So on Tuesday, all Tuesday is going to be me breaking down SmackDown and Raw for you guys. And then next Friday we'll have some more type stuff like this. I'm not going to do anything special on Tuesdays in terms of, you know, let's get cooking, or we'll continue Thirsty Tuesday. How we'll change that, those I'll just name the matchups and the winners from last week, but I won't vote I won't say where I vote. We'll vote in the Discord. So as I close out, again, if you're watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, comment, tell all your friends about us. We're at 93 subscribers as I record this. Let's try to get us to 100. That's the goal. The first goal is 100. And then once we get there, we'll move to the next 100, right? As I record this, also, I want to say this is, again, 190 episodes of this. In terms of on YouTube, there's only, I think my first episode that I put on YouTube was like episode like 97. So we're approaching 100 episodes on YouTube, which is crazy. If you're on audio, Spotify, Apple, leave us a review, hit follow or subscribe, hit that notification bell, share the link, tell your friends. Let's grow this thing up. Again, all the links to the Discord and the WWE affiliate link in the description. Thank you all again for listening. I do appreciate it, and I will see you all next week.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. 'Cause lately I've been